The day Marcus divorced Amara, he left her with nothing but an old, broken house everyone called worthless. She thought her life was over. But 3 nights later, while repairing a wall, Amara discovered a hidden room, and inside was a secret that would make her richer than the man who had destroyed her. Amara had spent 12 years believing that love meant sacrifice. When she met Marcus, he was a young man with big dreams, an old car, and barely enough money to pay his bills. Amara never cared about his lack of money. She saw something in him that others didn't. She believed he was capable of becoming successful, and she promised to stand beside him while he built his future. In those early years, Amara worked 2 jobs while Marcus focused on building his small business. She came home exhausted, cooked dinner, paid bills, and still found the energy to encourage him when his business failed. When Marcus wanted to give up, Amara was the one who told him to try again. When he needed money to keep his company alive, she used her savings without hesitation. "You'll pay me back when things get better," she would say with a smile. Marcus always promised he would, and eventually things did get better. His little company grew into a successful business. He bought a luxury car, moved into a beautiful mansion, and began attending expensive parties with wealthy people. At first, Amara was proud of him. She believed their sacrifices had finally paid off. But as Marcus became richer, something inside him changed. He stopped seeing Amara as the woman who had stood beside him when he had nothing. Instead, he began seeing her as someone who didn't belong in his new world. He criticized the clothes she wore. He complained that she didn't know how to behave around wealthy people. He told her she needed to change the way she spoke and dress if she wanted to be his wife. Then Vanessa entered his life. Vanessa was everything Marcus suddenly thought he wanted. She was glamorous, confident, and comfortable around wealthy people. She knew the right restaurants, the right parties, and the right people. Marcus began spending more time with her, and eventually he stopped hiding their relationship. Amara knew something was wrong, but she kept hoping her husband would remember the man he used to be. One evening, Marcus came home and placed a folder on the dining table. Amara looked at him. "What's that?" "Divorce papers." For several seconds she couldn't breathe. She stared at the folder as though the words might disappear if she looked at them long enough. "Marcus, after everything we've been through," he didn't answer. "I stood beside you when nobody believed in you. I know, I worked 2 jobs for you. I know, I used my savings to help your company." Marcus looked away. "And now you're leaving me." His voice was cold when he finally answered. "That was then, Amara. Things are different now." Those words broke something inside her. Marcus told her that the house, the cars, the investments, and almost everything he owned would remain with him. He claimed that the business belonged to him because he had built it. He conveniently ignored all the years Amara had sacrificed to help him reach that point. Then he gave her what he called a fair settlement, an old house. It was a small, abandoned property that had belonged to his father. The roof was damaged, the paint was peeling, and weeds covered the yard. Marcus smiled bitterly when he handed her the keys. "You always wanted a simple life," he said. "Now you have one." Vanessa, who was waiting outside in Marcus's luxury car, laughed when she saw the house. Amara looked at the broken windows and cracked walls. She could feel tears filling her eyes, but she refused to cry in front of them. Marcus walked toward his car. "Goodbye, Amara." She watched the car disappear down the road. For the first time in 12 years, she was completely alone. That night, Amara sat on the floor of the old house surrounded by boxes. There was no luxury furniture, no expensive kitchen, no beautiful bedroom. There was only silence. She cried until she had no tears left. But the next morning, she got up. She cleaned the house. She repaired what she could. She threw away the broken furniture and opened every window to let fresh air inside. Amara didn't know what her future would look like, but she knew one thing: she would not allow Marcus's rejection to become the end of her life. For 3 days, she worked from morning until night. On the 4th evening, she began repairing a damaged wall in the bedroom. As she removed an old wooden panel, she heard something strange, a hollow sound. Amara stopped. She tapped the wall again. The sound came back. There was something behind it. She carefully removed more of the wood and discovered a small metal door hidden behind the wall. Her heart began beating faster. There was no handle, only a tiny keyhole. Amara searched the room and eventually found an old wooden box beneath a broken floorboard. Inside was a small brass key. She inserted it into the lock. Click, the door opened. Behind it was a narrow staircase leading down into darkness. Amara hesitated. Then she grabbed a flashlight and slowly walked downstairs. At the bottom was a small hidden room covered in dust. There were boxes everywhere, old photographs, business records, property documents, and a large wooden desk covered with papers. Amara had no idea why the room existed or why Marcus had never mentioned it. She began looking through the documents. Then she saw a familiar name, Marcus's father. She picked up an old property agreement and began reading. The documents revealed that Marcus's father had purchased large amounts of land around the old house decades earlier. At the time, the land had been considered worthless, but there was something else. The property wasn't just an ordinary piece of land, it was connected to a long-term development agreement. Amara's hands began shaking. She continued searching. The deeper she went into the documents, the more shocked she became. The land surrounding her old house had recently been targeted by one of the largest development companies in the region. A massive commercial project was planned nearby. And the old house sat on one of the most valuable pieces of land in the entire area. Amara suddenly remembered something Marcus had once said. Years earlier, he had casually mentioned that his father had owned some useless property outside the city. At the time, she had never thought anything of it. Now she understood. Marcus knew, he had always known, the house he had given her wasn't worthless, it was incredibly valuable. But there was one document that shocked her more than everything else. Her own name was written on it. Amara read it twice, then a third time. According to the agreement, Marcus's father had placed specific ownership protections around the property. The property could not simply be reclaimed by Marcus after the divorce. It belonged to Amara. She sat down in the old chair and stared at the papers. The man who had told her she deserved nothing had just unknowingly given her the most valuable asset in his family, but Amara didn't celebrate yet. She wanted proof. The following morning, she contacted a property attorney and showed him the documents. He studied them carefully. Then he looked at her. "Mrs. Amara, do you understand what you have here?" "No," she whispered. "You may be sitting on several $1 million." Amara's heart stopped. Several million. The words sounded impossible. The attorney explained that the development company needed her land for its project. Without it, their plans could not move forward. Within days, representatives from the company contacted her. They offered her a large amount of money. Amara couldn't believe it. Only weeks earlier, she had been sitting alone on the floor of a broken house wondering how she would survive. Now people were offering millions for the same property Marcus had called worthless. She could have immediately accepted. But something inside her told her to wait, and she was right, because the moment Marcus discovered what was happening, everything changed. He arrived at her house one afternoon wearing an expensive suit. The same man who had walked away from her without looking back was now standing at her front door with a nervous smile. "Amara, we need to talk." She looked at him calmly. "What do you want?" "I heard about the property, so." Marcus sighed. "That land belonged to my family. You gave it to me. I didn't know it was worth this much." Amara looked directly into his eyes. "That doesn't sound like my problem." Marcus became emotional. "I made mistakes." Amara almost laughed. "Mistakes? Yes. I was confused. I let money change me." "You didn't become someone else because of money, Marcus. Money simply showed me who you really were." He lowered his head. Then he started talking about their marriage. He reminded her of their first apartment, their first vacation, and the years they had spent together. He told her that he still loved her, but Amara knew what had brought him there. It wasn't love, it was money. "You didn't come back because you missed me," she said. "You came back because you discovered that the woman you abandoned became valuable." Marcus had no answer. Then Vanessa appeared. She was furious. "Marcus, what are you doing here?" He turned around. "Vanessa, this isn't the right time." She looked at Amara, then at Marcus. "You told me this property was worthless." Marcus remained silent. That was the moment Vanessa understood. Marcus had lied to her too. Their relationship began falling apart almost immediately, but Marcus wasn't finished. He hired lawyers and claimed that the property should belong to him because it had originally belonged to his father. Amara refused to surrender. The case went deeper into the family's history, and then the attorney discovered the document Marcus had been hoping would never be found. It was an original agreement signed years earlier by Marcus's father. The document clearly stated that the property would be protected from any future claim by Marcus, and there was another shocking detail. Marcus's father had specifically instructed that the property should remain with the person who had demonstrated the most loyalty to the family. That person was Amara. Marcus's father had watched her sacrifice for years. He had seen how she supported his son. He had once told a family friend that Amara was the strongest person Marcus had ever met. Marcus had forgotten all of that. His father had not. When Marcus learned the truth, his entire plan collapsed. He could no longer claim the property. He could no longer manipulate Amara. And for the first time, he realized exactly what he had thrown away. The development company increased its offer. Amara finally accepted a portion of the deal, but she didn't sell everything. She kept part of the property and invested her money wisely. Instead of spending millions on luxury cars and designer clothes, she created a business. She started with a small office and a simple idea. She wanted to help women who had been abandoned financially rebuild their lives. Her company grew faster than anyone expected. Within a year, Amara was no longer just a millionaire. She was becoming a respected businesswoman. The old house was restored instead of demolished. Amara wanted to keep it as a reminder. Every room represented something: the bedroom where she had cried, the kitchen where she had first cooked alone, the hidden room where she had discovered the truth. The house that Marcus had used to humiliate her had become the foundation of her new life. Meanwhile, Marcus's world was falling apart. His company had accumulated debts. His reputation suffered after several business decisions were exposed. Vanessa left him when the money started disappearing. For the first time, Marcus understood what it felt like to lose everything. One evening, he returned to the old house. Amara opened the door. Marcus looked tired. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness," he said. Amara said nothing. "I made the biggest mistake of my life." She looked at him for a long moment. "You didn't lose me because you became rich," she said. "You lost me because you forgot who stood beside you when you were poor." Marcus's eyes filled with tears. "I wish I could change everything." "You can't." He looked toward the restored house. "You really did something amazing with this place." Amara smiled. "No, Marcus, the house didn't make me successful." He looked at her. "I did." She continued, "The house only gave me an opportunity. I was the one who decided not to give up." Marcus nodded slowly, then he walked away. Amara watched him disappear down the road. She didn't feel revenge. She felt peace. She walked back inside and stood in the same room where she had once cried after losing everything. But she wasn't the same woman anymore. She had learned something Marcus never understood. Your worth does not decrease because someone fails to recognize it. Sometimes people walk away from you because they cannot see your value. Sometimes rejection feels like the end. Sometimes the door that closes behind you is the very door that forces you toward the life you were meant to live. Marcus thought he was leaving Amara with nothing. He thought the old house was a punishment. He thought she would spend the rest of her life regretting the day he left her. Instead, that old house became the beginning of everything. Amara didn't become successful because Marcus gave her a valuable property. She became successful because when life broke her heart, she chose to rebuild. And that was the one thing Marcus could never take away from her. Sometimes, the person who tries to destroy your future unknowingly hands you the key to it.